Yeah, it's clearly an electrical issue. I mean, the battery is not dead. The bike, even the horn even works. So that's not the problem. All the lights are on, everything's going. Bike's in neutral. I hit the starter. There is no starter motor turning over. Hello, inner tubes. Different spokes coming at you from the Canadian wilderness on this lovely day. And I'm riding my Moto Guzzi Stelvio up north toward Algonquin Park here. But I'm not entirely happy today, and I'll tell you why. Things aren't quite as sunny as the weather. If you're thinking about buying a Moto Guzzi, you might want to listen to this because it's story time. Alright, so do I love this bike? Yep, I love this bike. It's great, it's super comfortable. I love riding these roads. It's lovely, and it's got great weather protection. All that stuff is great. However, there are issues, and before you buy one of these, especially a Stelvio, you might want to listen to this story I have. I bought this Moto Guzzi this winter, and I've been riding it since March, since the weather was pretty cold, and by and large it hasn't let me down, by and large being the operative words, because an issue has arisen. Now, fortunately, it's not a huge issue, but it is an issue you should be aware of as a potential owner of this bike. So let me tell you all about this story from the beginning. You might notice, if you've watched any of my other videos, that I'm rocking a new windshield. That's because, out of my own stupidity, I dropped this bike. That's totally my fault, not blaming anyone else for that. I dropped it, and I chipped my windshield on a curb, and I also bent a rotor. No problem. Everything was fine. I took it to the Guzzi dealer, gave it to them. They're like, oh yeah, we'll fix it. We'll have it looking good as new for you. Cool. Left, went home, hung out for a week. Bike's not done. Hung out for 2 weeks, bike's not done. Hung out for 3 weeks, bike's not done. What's the problem? The rotor is on its way from Italy, and it's taking its time. And I don't have a freaking rotor to put on my bike in the middle of the season, a short Canadian riding season. I can't get out on my bike. I got out a little on my wife's Honda 300cc little runabout, but I don't have my bike, and I'm about to go up to my cabin, and I want to ride these beautiful roads here. Finally, I got on the phone. I decided I was done being a nice guy, and I said, listen, this is unacceptable. I never would have brought it in here. Had I known it was going to take this long, I would have replaced the damn thing myself. Ordered it myself and replaced it myself. They're like, well, it might be here on Tuesday. This was like Tuesday of the previous week, so they're saying it might take another week. And I'm like, no, I'm not waiting another week. So finally the mechanic, one of the mechanics there says, listen, okay, we can, here's what we can do. We can pull a rotor off of another new bike that we have, and then when yours comes in, we'll put yours on that bike. And I was like, all right, that's a solution that speaks to me, so let's do that. And that's what they did. So I finally picked it up, and that issue was resolved. Now, my wife had gone up to our cabin, which is up here, by that time, and I was just gonna go up, take the public transit up to the Moto Guzzi place, and then ride up from there. It's a 4-hour drive. So my wife, her dad, and a car full of stuff went up, and I went to the Moto Guzzi place to pick up the bike. I did pick it up. I fought my way through Toronto traffic. I fought my way up the highway, up Highway 400 out of Toronto going north. And I eventually got on the 11, got to Huntsville, which is a little bit more than halfway there. Stopped in Huntsville because I'm wearing this mesh jacket and I needed to put on a layer underneath because it was getting cold. Threw the layer underneath on, got on my bike, ready to go the rest of the way. It was about 160k left. It was a lovely ride through Algonquin Park. It was getting late, it was getting dark. I thought, all right, I'll ride through Algonquin, I'll throw on the old floodlights. So I threw them on, hit the starter, the bike just went click. Not even a turnover, nothing. Well, here we are in Huntsville. I just picked the bike up at a Moto Guzzi dealer today, had it fixed. It took them almost a month to do it. They gave it back to me. I jumped on, filled it up with gas, headed up here 200 kilometers, stopped for a sec to put in my jacket insert, turned the bike off, and now it will not start. It's an electrical issue. I rode through a little bit of rain up here. We can turn on the key and yes, how can I do this with? I'm gonna hold in the clutch. The bike is in neutral. You can see it's full of fuel. We've ridden 193.3 kilometers. I'm going to hit the starter button here with my pinky. Hold in the clutch, and that's what we get. Yeah. Oh man. Tried it again, tried it again, tried it again, tried it again. And the bike's just clickety-clacking away. I had to wait for CAA, which is the Canadian equivalent of AAA, to come. I looked at some fuses, I looked at some other stuff. I couldn't find the fuse that was blown. I couldn't find anything. It was dark. I couldn't see. I didn't have a flashlight. And I was in kind of an out-of-the-way place, and I hadn't bothered to find out where all the fuses on the bike were. So that's again my own fault for being silly and not finding out the ins and outs of a new bike that I have. So I found a couple of fuses, they were fine, and I couldn't see any other fuses from where I was looking, from where I had removed the seat. It took CAA about 4 hours to get to me. Now, it wasn't CAA, it was just a private contractor that they had called and paid to go pick me up and drop me at my cottage. So a nice Iranian guy came. I think his name was Masood. Shout out to Masood if you're watching. But Masood picked me up on his flatbed, strapped the bike down. We jumped in, rode through lovely Algonquin Park. By that time it was past 1, it was around 2 a.m. I literally arrived back home about 3:30 at the cabin in the middle of the night. And Masood had a big flatbed, and the problem with a big flatbed is that it can't turn around on my little tiny gravel cottage road. There's not enough room for it. So I got Masood to drop me off on the regular road, and I jumped on my bike and pushed it onto the gravel road and coasted down with barely any, just basically daytime running lights running, because that's all I had. I stood on the bike and tried to steer it. I only saw about 4 feet ahead of me. It was the middle of the night, and tried to steer it along the side of the road down to my cottage, which I did do, but it was a hairy experience. Next morning I woke up, in full light, I took the seat off, I looked in, I saw inside a little bit further than I was able to see before. I saw into the dark recesses of the guts of the bike, and I saw that there's another set of fuses down there that's only accessible if you take off a side panel. And so I took off that side panel, I checked the fuses. One of the fuses was blown. I replaced it, I tried to start the bike. The bike turned over once, but the battery was dead from me trying to start it the night before. So I jumped the bike and I actually got it to start after turning off the lights. the floodlights that I had tried to turn on before, because I suspected that me turning on those floodlights had blown the damn fuse, which it did, because when I turned them off, turned the bike over, and started it, it started up just fine. So the floodlights are not to be used on the Moto Guzzi Stelvio. Alright, here's the culprit. We've got one fuse that was busted, and it was in a blind location. It's right there. That's the replacement. So that fuse was in a blind location underneath this panel over here. And in the dark, I couldn't see that fuse, and that's the one that was burnt out. Bike's running, just got a jump from the car. The battery was a little dead because I had been trying to jump it so much. And yeah, it seems we're good here. We're good to go. Well, that was that story, and I was sure glad that I didn't have to, it wasn't a serious electrical issue, although it is an electrical issue, and Italian bikes are known for electrical issues. So I decided, all right, well, I'm not turning those floodlights on again, except on this ride today, I accidentally must have nudged the switch on the right handlebar and turned on the floodlight, because I stopped in town for a sec, tried to turn the bike on, and it died on me again. Same issue. Again, I checked the fuse. Again, it was blown. It was my last spare that I had, so I had to drop by the old hardware store and picked up 8 spare fuses of that size to have around in case this issue crept up again, which it probably will. Alright, so let's see where this road goes. Sometimes gravel gets a little deep here, and it gets a little loose, and that's where standing up and putting a little bit more weight on the front wheel is beneficial on these kinds of roads. I got a 19-inch front wheel. It's not as good as a 21-inch, but it's better than a 17-inch, like on the Ducati Multistrada. And we're just going to cruise along here and have a nice chill time on this road. See where this road goes. If it gets the pavement, we'll take it. If it doesn't, well, we'll just come back the same way. Oh, wow. Look at these homesteads. They're amazing. And look at the view up ahead. Wow, this is lovely. Oh, look at this. I'm gonna pop it down into third here, get some engine braking going down this hill. Gravel's getting a little thicker here, so I don't want to be on the brakes down the hill. So the engine braking does a better job. The bike's moving around underneath me. Hopefully no boo-boo's gonna happen. I'm no Dakar racer, in case you haven't noticed. I just like to ride around here, that's all. Is this the end of the road? Better stand up here. Where do we go from here, folks? I guess we'll go left here. A bike this heavy, you just kind of have to let it do its own thing. You're not going to muscle this bike around. This isn't a dirt bike. Chug, chug, chug on the torque. Nice, low revs. I left it probably in too high a gear for that hill, but that's fine. When it's low revs like that, the power delivery is a little smoother. But you know, I like this bike. I can't really complain about it. Yeah, sure, every now and then it'll die on you and leave you stranded in the middle of the night, 2 hours from home, but man, look at the other fun you can have on this thing. Well, I know better now, so if it dies now, I got plenty of fuses. I have no idea where I'm going, by the way. We're just riding, man. We're just in the wild with the bears and the wolves and all the other stuff. We're just a few kilometers south of Algonquin Park here, and I have no idea where this road will lead us to, but wherever it does, that's where we're going. Don't want to rag on Guzzi too much, but let's get real. This probably won't happen. Actually, I was gonna say this probably won't happen on a Honda, but I used to have an old Honda F4, and it totally did happen on the Honda. I blew a fuse, and not only did the Honda, the engine didn't die on me, but the fuse was for the light system and for the whole dash. So I had to ride back home at night with no lights on that freaking little sport bike. And man, let me tell you, I was sweating buckets thinking I was going to get a ticket for not having any lights. Hey, pavement, here we go. All right, well, there we go. So, but it only happened once. I replaced that fuse and it didn't happen again. This seems to be a chronic issue with the Guzzi, and it seems to be related to the fog lights. So yeah, maybe some nice LEDs will fix the problem. Alright, so since I filmed that last video, we've had 2 blowouts. I've lost 2 more fuses. I bought a whole bunch of them and gone through 2 of them. Had to get a boost in a coffee shop parking lot from a nice man in a truck. So yeah, things aren't ideal, and all those have one thing in common, and that is that I accidentally hit this switch right here with the lights. And when you hit that and when you accidentally turn on the light, then the fuse blows. So I'm probably going to disconnect those lights. I'm going to just put some LEDs on and hopefully solve the problem. I'm not an electrical expert, but I will go on some forums and try to figure things out. When I do, I will come out with a video explaining how I did that. In the meantime, I'm just not going to use the fog lights. But it is a beautiful day. The Moto Guzzi has been doing nicely, and I'm about to take it on its first camping trip tomorrow, so hopefully there won't be any problems at that point.